In the early 20th century, a man named Joseph Campbell wrote a book called A Hero with a Thousand Faces because he was reading a whole bunch of myths through all over the world, and he realized that no matter what culture they came from, heroes followed a very similar path. It was essentially the same hero with different faces. Now, Joseph Campbell doesn't say that this happens by design. No one set out to tell the same story again and again and again. His point is that the reason these myths keep popping up and the same path is followed is because we respond to this as humans on some elemental level, so that it doesn't matter what culture we come from, for some reason this story appeals to us. He even goes so far as to say that when we are denied the right to go through these stages, we start having crazy dreams where these same symbols pop up in our dreams. Again, this wasn't something that some people set out to do. It was something that happened on accident over time, no matter what culture you came from. No one really called attention to it even until the early 20th century. 5,000 years of myths telling the same story again and again. It's pretty epic. So this is all fine and good, but the really neat thing about this is that you still see it going on. Movies that make it really big and last for generations like Star Wars, and books that last for generations like Lord of the Rings, those are the types of stories that follow this hero's journey. Occasionally, authors or directors will set out to do this on purpose. So the most famous example is Star Wars. George Lucas did this on purpose. But other times, it really happens as an accident. People don't realize they're doing it, but good stories and good literature follow this same path. And that's the reason that they're good. That's the reason you like them. That's the reason you go back to them. Now, as promised, for the next few days, we are going to watch The Hunger Games and talk about how we see this hero's journey in The Hunger Games. But before all that fun can be had, you need to watch this video and fill out information about the various steps in the hero's journey. Use the worksheet I gave you in class. As you watch this video, fill out this column on the left that says description. The column on the right we're going to fill out as we watch the movie in class. Like I said, the first set of steps is called the departure. So the very first step our hero must take is he must get called to adventure. When it starts out, he's normal in a mundane world. That's the word Campbell uses. He could be unhappy like Dorothy or Luke, or he could be happy like Shrek was. And then something happens. Someone shows up and throws a wrench into his plans, and all of a sudden he is chosen or he is pulled onto a brand new quest. Now, he's normal. Something happens to invite them on a quest, but a lot of times it's scary to go on this quest and leave the world that they're comfortable in. It can be so scary, in fact, that they might actually refuse to go on the quest. So that's the refusal of the call. They just don't want to go for one reason or another. So at this point in the story, someone shows up who's going to help the hero in supernatural aid. A lot of times people call this a spirit guide. So it's someone who knows the rules of both normal world and adventure world, and they show up and sometimes they'll give him a gift even. So like Glinda the Good Witch is going to give Dorothy her red slippers, and Donkey's just going to give Shrek advice. But it helps them transition from the normal world into the adventure world. Now that they have their spirit guide, they're going to cross the first threshold from normal world into adventure world. So the normal rules no longer apply once they've crossed this threshold, and most likely people easily get shot, Han shot first, or walls open up into doorways into magical places that you're just not used to seeing. But whatever the case, the normal rules don't apply. But at this point, they can easily turn around usually and go back to the normal world. The belly of the whale is a pretty big step on the hero's journey because it's a time of great change for the hero. They tend to disappear from view for a little bit, almost as if they've died. So sometimes they get swallowed by an actual beast. Or sometimes they can get sucked into the Death Star. But the important thing is that it's no longer easy for them to go back to who they were or where they came from. So Marvin cannot easily leave this shark infestation. Katniss becomes the girl on fire. It's a pretty big change. She's no longer just Katniss Everdeen. She's the girl on fire. Again, in sum, it symbolizes death and rebirth. There's no easy return to the normal world, and there's a lot of change. Now that he's departed, he needs to be initiated into Adventure World. Now, the Road of Trials is when the hero really starts off on his or her quest. And it's just a whole bunch of things they have to do to prove how awesome they are. It's really easy to explain, but it can take up a huge portion of a lot of myths because it's interesting. There could be monsters you have to fight, or you might have to overcome a villain like the evil witch. And really, the hero is just proving that they're becoming better and proving how amazing they are. Up until this point, all of the steps we've seen appear in pretty much every myth you read. Now we're getting into some of them that aren't as common in every single myth. So this is the meeting with the goddess. Basically, the hero is going to meet someone who will give them unconditional love. It doesn't have to be a woman, like in the Hunger Games, it's going to be Peeta. But whatever the case, they get unconditional love. Woman as a temptress. I need to tell you that it's not always a woman. It's not even usually a woman. Campbell, like many people who were writing at his time, was male-centric and didn't think outside the box. But really, woman as a temptress just means that something happens and the hero really wants to give up. They have to choose to go on with their quest instead of just lying down and giving up. Now we reach atonement with the father, and just like the goddess and the woman don't need to be female, the father doesn't need to be a father. It just needs to be someone who holds ultimate power over life and death. And the hero needs to meet that father and prove to that father that they are capable. A lot of times they also have to kind of come to terms with the fact that the father is harsh and will give out punishment, but will also give mercy. They really need to say, what now, to the father and come out on top. And again, sometimes they need to deal with that dual nature of the father. Apotheosis literally means that the hero becomes a god. But a lot of times in stories there aren't gods. So really it's the hero reaching their full potential and being above normal mortals. Now here I'm showing Hercules, who actually gets to become a god, because there are gods and goddesses in their story. It can also be a time of sort of rest and rebirth for the hero. This brings us to the ultimate boon. This is when the hero gets the goal of his quest. Whatever he wanted, he accomplished. He blows up the Death Star. He finds his son. He defeats the evil wizard. Whatever it is the hero set out to get, he gets at the ultimate boon. We are going to run through these next 4 steps pretty quickly because we don't see a lot of these in Western movies. Once our hero gets what he wants, we're happy just to let the story end. So the first one is the refusal of the return. In the refusal of the return, sometimes the hero doesn't want to leave nice, exciting adventure world and go back to his mundane, boring existence. Next in our docket is the magical flight, which means that sometimes if the gods don't want the hero to have what the ultimate boon was, he has to flee with his prize. And so sometimes he needs to get rescued from without. So in Star Wars, Han Solo flies in and saves Luke Skywalker. And the last step we're going to gloss over is crossing the return threshold. Sometimes the hero just takes a step back from adventure world into normal world. Having gone on the quest, the hero is now the master of 2 worlds, of both normal world and adventure world. They are able to navigate between the two, and whatever they were questing for, they brought back special knowledge to that normal world that they left. They are now better and above other men because they have the ability to cross between the world of the gods and the world of mortals that they come from. Now that they are the master of two worlds, they just have the freedom to live a nice, happy, normal life. And Campbell makes a point of saying that they can also live free of any guilt of anything that they did on their quest. That, may eat a Scipuli, is the hero's journey. So take the quiz and choose something that you think follows this same path and tell me about it. I look forward to reading them. I really do.